Hey guys, Pygar Rules here, and we have a new 15-minute time limit. And in honor of that, I figure I'd review or rant upon two of the most requested shows, and I suppose newest shows and most hated or controversial shows on Nickelodeon Cartoon Network. I am, of course, talking about Fanboy and Chum Chum and Adventure Time. Now, for Fanboy and Chum Chum, I've watched 3 of these episodes that were available on Nick.com at the time of this recording. Firstly, though, you have to know that my opinion on both these shows is as of this date on the video. It is not any other years down the road. If these shows get better, my opinion may change. So just know that these shows are both very early on in their production, and so maybe they'll get better, but I'm just going to rant upon what it is now. So if you're watching this a year down the line, just know that my opinion may have changed. But with Fanboy and Chum Chum, most likely it hasn't. Now, going into the show, it was kind of hard to not already want to believe it's going to suck, because I've had comments upon messages, upon emails telling me, this show's horrible, rant on it, this show is just god-awful, rant on it. And so that's what I'm finally doing. Okay, so I'm 5 minutes into the first episode I'm watching, and the thing that's pissing me off the most is Chum Chum's voice. It's obviously done by a woman. If women are going to voice little boys' characters, that's fine, but you can't make them sound like women. Obviously, whoever this is, it has to be some amateur. Or Nancy Cartwright, the woman who voices Bart Simpson, and has a Wikipedia filmography page that looks like this. Alright, I'm not going to blame her. I'm just going to assume it was the creators of this show, or the writers of this show, that wanted her to do an obnoxious, obviously girl voice. Now, animation-wise, although you all know that I prefer classic, traditional, hand-drawn animation, or however they do it with computers now, to computer-generated CGI, but the CGI here is actually pretty good. I quite like it. So, although I'd have preferred a hand-drawn cartoon, this is not bad. Technology has come a long way, and I think it really shows here. So, animation-wise, it looks pretty good. It has a nice style of its own. I quite like that, at least, of it. As far as the jokes go, well, some of them are amusing, I suppose, but the toilet humor is just so immature, even for the kids watching the show. Well, I just got done watching the 11-minute episode Chimp Chump Chomps, or Chimp Chomp Chumps, whatever, and it actually wasn't that bad. Now, keep in mind, I've only seen one 11-minute episode, and I'm going to continue watching them. But, the jokes were pretty stale, but they kept the pacing well. They kept it fast-paced, and they kept the action going and the story moving. So, the characters are annoying, but the plot wasn't too bad, and the writing was, I'd say, so-so. Well, I'm going to continue on watching the rest of them, and I'll get back to you after that. 11 minutes later. Just saw the episode Precious Pig. More toilet humor. And a dramatic chipmunk reference. Really, Nickelodeon? Really, Fanboy Chum Chum? You need to reference the internet for humor? I'm starting to see why people hate this show. And the thing with the karate, Fanboy uses karate and does the tongue thing. Is anyone else getting SpongeBob flashbacks here? It's almost like they I think they're trying to kind of like they're trying to make Fanboy and Chum Chum the next SpongeBob. I'm pretty sure that's what they're trying to do here. And trust me, it's not working. And that's not even getting to the part where they start the Lord of the Rings references. I mean, Lord of the Rings isn't even that popular amongst the kids who would be young enough to watch this show. And don't get me wrong, I know people of all ages watch Lord of the Rings. Don't be messaging me saying, I'm 7 years old and I watch Lord of the Rings. Yes, I know, but I'm just saying, it's a stale reference that's been overused and it's not right for the demographic. And then the show just sinks into utter chaos. I mean, I'm sorry, there's cartoon weirdishness, and then there's having a cave in the classroom and desks driving away. Yeah, you're stretching your cartoonishness there. I mean, it's one thing for SpongeBob, and I know I'm drawing another comparison to SpongeBob, but it's one thing for SpongeBob to have these weird plots, but to have a show with actual humans and the it has to have some sort of groundedness. I can understand it has cartoonishness, has weirdness, has randomness, has jokes, but they have to kind of make sense within the show's parameter. You know, it's one thing to have a fart joke, it's another thing to have a fart joke as your running gag. I mean, uh, the show just goes for the easiest form of humor. It doesn't try, the characters aren't likable, and it doesn't make sense. The show is just not good. I completely agree with all of you leaving me comments, and yeah, I really, really hope this does not last long. It's also the perfect example of what networks are trying to do with cartoons these days. They're trying to make cartoons newer and edgy. You know, they're trying to make them. They're trying to aim for a demographic. They're trying to shoot and do something they've already done. Instead of just trying to make a cartoon, they'll make a cartoon that they think kids will like. They think, hey, kids like wacky cartoon characters that act like comic book characters. It just they need better ideas than this. They can't just. I'm sorry if I'm not making any sense. I just watched Fanboy and Chum Chum, so my brains are a little scrambled. Alright, so let's move on to what I hope will be a little bit more intelligent humor in Adventure Time on Cartoon Network. Now, like Fanboy and Chum Chum, this show is also relatively new and relatively kind of the go-to show that the network is pushing. While we're just listing off similarities, both of them have John DiMaggio voicing characters, and they were both green-lighted for a series after a short. As a matter of fact, Nickelodeon almost had the series. It was pitched to Nickelodeon twice, but Nickelodeon didn't want it, and so they passed it on to Cartoon Network. Let's see if that was a smart move. Okay, I'm like 2 minutes into the first episode that I'm watching, Prisoners of Love, and I already love this show. I just do. John DiMaggio is just awesome as any character he plays. I'm sorry, like Bender is one of my favorite characters of all time, any animated show, and this dog seems to be he is very Bender-esque. And I like the show's setting. I like how it's set in a weird, fantastical world, which makes the odd, obscure, weird jokes work here where they didn't work in Fanboy and Chum Chum. The surreal stuff definitely works here. Also, the animation on this show is great. GR8. This is how animation should be done. The CGI cannot hold a candle to this. I know that I said that Fanboy and Chum Chum look good, and it did, but this looks a lot better. I love how smooth and clean the animation is here. It is great. The sound effects, the music, all great too. Also, the show can apparently get away with making innuendo and sexual stuff, like apparently calling a monster hot and then proclaiming that he did not mean sexy. Hey, I think that kind of humor can work because it works on all levels. Because little kids like it because, you know, they think it's big grown-up humor. And, hey, I think the show could actually appeal to my demographic. Oh, and as far as voice actors go, I know I already sang my praise for John DiMaggio. But the kid who plays, or not kid, but the voice actor who plays the kid is also very nice, and he's got a cool voice, and it's not annoying. It's not an annoying voice. It's a different voice, and it's a nice voice, and it's good. Also, the Ice King is voiced by Tom Kenny. Hey, you can't go wrong with Tom Kenny, who is the voice of SpongeBob and numerous other characters. It's because of all these things that go together very well, the animation, the voice acting, the music, it makes it very interesting to watch. It's something that draws your attention. The fantastical world that they're in is interesting. You want to see it. It's not just another average cartoon. I feel that this one is unique and different. There's something about this that I just really like. The dialogue itself is also pretty clever and just weird. I like it. I know this isn't much of a rant, but I mean, man, I really like this show. If I had to find a criticism, oh, when the Ice King laughs, it sounds like SpongeBob because of Tom Kenny. Yeah, there, that makes me angry. Ha ha ha. Grr. So the bottom line is, Adventure Time is great. I didn't think I'd like it, but I really do. So there you go, folks. Now we have two shows on Cartoon Network that I really like: the Scooby-Doo show and this show. So hey, maybe Cartoon Network's on its rebound. As far as Nickelodeon, they're still rehashing the same immature toilet humor, boredom, randomness that they've been for years with SpongeBob and all these other shows. They need to wake up and realize they gotta try something new because SpongeBob can't carry them forever, and SpongeBob-like shows can't carry them forever. So they need something. Nickelodeon needs something else to kind of diversify themselves from just being the network that just has wacky off the wall shows. Because wacky off the wall shows are good, but they need to be good wacky off the wall shows. They aren't that good now with newer SpongeBob and Fanboy and Chum Chum and Mighty B and whatever else they're still airing now. See, Nickelodeon needs to realize that it was founded upon zany off-the-wall shows like Ren and Stimpy, and then down-to-earth shows like Rugrats or Hey Arnold or Doug. It needs to realize that it needs some likable characters. It needs to be set in reality, or not a reality, but it needs to be grounded in its own universe. They need to work a little harder, I think. I think Fanboy and Chum Chum is just something that could be easily thrown together without much effort. And I don't mean that the CGI is cheap. I mean, the writing seems just like, we're going to come up with a show, and it's going to be these two kids that like superheroes, and they're going to be fanboys, and one of them's going to be Fanboy, and the other one's Chum Chum, and they run around in these superhero costumes, and they get into weird adventures, and all sorts of stuff happens, and they have weird powers, and it's all cartoony, and, like, it doesn't take much thinking to produce a show like that. And I think that's the problem. I don't think they're reading enough into the show, and I don't think they're reading enough into the characters. SpongeBob worked for so many years because it had great characters. It had each character that had their own traits that were very well established. The location of Bikini Bottom, the Krusty Krab, the Chum Bucket, that was all established very well. And it was grounded in its own reality. As wacky and off the wall as it is, and still as it was and still is, it had its own reality that it's grounded in. Fanboy and Chum Chum just seems to be these two weird kids thrown into this just kind of realish world that's not really realistic, but it just, I don't like Fanboy and Chum Chum. Everyone who says it's bad is right. It's just, it's lazy, it's SpongeBob-like, it's just not trying is the problem. Adventure Time, on the other hand, is something different for Cartoon Network, and yet it still feels a bit the same. I don't know what to compare it to, but it feels a bit like, I don't know, because it's a new like every new episode of Adventure Time feels like something different, you know? It is an adventure. It's not like the same characters in the same area doing the same things over and over again. It tries something new, and it has likable characters. Finn and Jake are both very interesting, very likable. The kid acts like a 12-year-old boy. He says things like cool and dude, and the dog is very world-weary and adventure-like. It's a great show. I urge you to check out Adventure Time. Do not watch Fanboy and Chum Chum. That's all the time we have. 15 minutes has been up. Pie Guy Rules, out.